More than 100 politicians attended the United Nations General Assembly High-Level Week in person in September this year. They discussed everything from the COVID-19 pandemic and vaccine inequality to the spread of hate speech and human rights violations. But it was climate change that dominated the debate, with British Prime Minister Boris Johnson holding a summit on the sidelines to push world leaders to make bigger cuts in greenhouse gas emissions. And China grabbed headlines with a major announcement.
China will step up support for other developing countries in developing green and low-carbon energy and will not build new coal-fired power projects abroad.
Green campaigners say it's an indication that major economies are increasingly recognizing the need to switch to renewable energy sources.
China talking about financing, the phasing out gradually of using coal. It's all small steps in the right direction. It's going to happen because national governments and corporations are going to start to see that renewable energy is more effective, cheaper than fossil fuels.
Just a month after the General Assembly, there was a reunion for the group of 20 major economies at their first in-person gathering in 2 years, and it began with lofty intentions.
The fight against climate change is the defining challenge of our times.
But the G20 leaders failed to find consensus on key climate change agreements. Some countries said they would struggle to phase out coal power by 2025, and there was concern over the wording of a pledge to limit global warming to between 1.5 and 2 degrees Celsius, as set out in the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement. And so the event ended with one remaining chance for major change.
Ladies and gentlemen, COP26 begins in Glasgow tomorrow. Quite literally, it is the last chance saloon.
While Russia and China were noticeably absent from the proceedings, world leaders and business magnates descended on Glasgow in November for the UN Climate Change Summit.
In this critical year, and what we all know is the decisive decade, we must all stand together to protect our world.
The event led to 137 global leaders signing a pledge to hold and reverse forest loss and land degradation by 2030. Wildlife experts say this is potentially the biggest announcement from the meeting.
It's critical, certainly for wildlife and biodiversity, and it's critical for people. Our global economy depends on forests. Without them, we would be half a degree warmer than we are today, because they are effectively pulling a third of the fossil fuel emissions that we put into the atmosphere out and storing them each year.
108 nations also signed up for an initiative aiming to reduce human-caused methane by 30% between 2020 and 2030, while 46 countries agreed to phase out coal power at varying speeds. Climate Action Tracker says those pledges have the potential to cut 2.2 gigatons of carbon dioxide emissions, equivalent to the output of Germany, Japan and the UK combined. But in his end-of-year press conference, the United Nations Secretary-General said there remains much work to be done.
The truth is that we are now seeing devastation in climate or caused by climate change, not only in developing countries, not only in small islands. Look at the tornadoes that happen in Kentucky.
The Secretary-General says his only hope is that the situation is becoming so bad that the world has no option but to address global warming once and for all. And so 2022 will see a new series of climate summits, culminating in COP27 in Egypt in November. Sarah Walton, CGTN, New York.